I never thought a single phone call could make me feel like I didn't belong in my own family. It was early November, and I was cleaning up after dinner when my phone lit up. Mom calling. For a split second, I smiled. Thanksgiving was coming, and despite the distance and awkward silences over the years, I still hoped we could have one of those perfect holidays. The kind we used to have when I was a kid. I answered, still drying my hands. Hey, Mom. Hi, sweetheart. Her voice was light, too light. Performative. She didn't ask about the kids. Didn't ask about anything, really. She just launched in. I wanted to talk to you about Thanksgiving this year. My heart lifted a little. Ava and Noah had already been talking about it for days, drawing turkeys, asking if Grandma was going to make her sweet potato pie. I could already picture their faces at the big table, surrounded by family and food and laughter. Sure, I said. What's the plan? There was a pause. The kind of pause that makes your stomach tighten before your brain understands why. Well, we're doing things a little differently this year, she said, clearing her throat. We're keeping it small, intimate, just adults. I blinked. So, no kids at all? She hesitated. That hesitation said everything before her next words even landed. Not exactly. Daniel and Sophie are coming with the boys. Silence. I gripped the countertop. So, just my kids aren't invited? It's not personal, Nora. Her voice dipped into that passive-aggressive tone I knew too well. You know Ava and Noah. They're a little energetic. It's just easier to keep things calm this year. Easier for who? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. There was another pause. Daniel's boys are quieter, more refined. It's not a competition, sweetheart. We just want a peaceful dinner. A knot tightened in my throat. Peaceful dinner. That's what she called it. Excluding my kids, her grandkids, because they weren't quiet enough for her table. You're telling me my kids, Ava, who made you that handprint, card, and Noah, who still asks when you're going to visit, aren't welcome, but Daniel's are. She sighed. Don't make this dramatic, Nora. Of course you and Liam are invited. Just not the children. It's just one dinner. My jaw clenched. The room felt colder. I looked at the photo on our fridge, Ava's big grin with chocolate on her cheek, Noah mid-laugh, and I knew. If I let this slide, if I sat at that table while my kids stayed home wondering why Grandma didn't want them, I'd never forgive myself. If my kids aren't welcome, I said calmly, then neither am I. There was silence on the line. Then a sharp exhale. Suit yourself, she said, and the call ended. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, phone still in my hand, listening to Ava giggle in the next room, completely unaware that the people she loved most had just chosen someone else's children over her. And for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't going to fight for their love anymore. After the call, I stood in silence. Not angry, not broken, just hollow. The lights in the kitchen hummed softly, and the faint scent of cinnamon from the candle Ava had picked out still hung in the air. It should have felt like a home, warm, safe, full, but right then, it felt like the echo of something I'd outgrown. In the living room, Ava and Noah were draped across the floor with pillows and construction paper, making Thanksgiving turkeys out of handprints. Noah was focused, tongue out in concentration, carefully gluing googly eyes. Ava glanced up and beamed when she saw me watching. Do you think Grandma will put this on her fridge? She asked, holding up a crooked turkey made of glitter and love. I opened my mouth to answer, but the words never came. I walked over and sat on the edge of the couch, folding my hands tightly in my lap. How do you explain to your children that some people's love comes with conditions? That sometimes even family chooses convenience over connection? That night, after bedtime stories and hugs and whispers of "I love you," I sat alone in the hallway outside their rooms, back against the wall. I stared at the family photos lining the hallway. Birthdays, beach trips, Christmas mornings. Every one of them had a story. And in all of them, I had been the one holding things together. The one who remembered everyone's birthdays. The one who sent thank you cards on behalf of my parents. The one who packed the trunk with food every Thanksgiving because Mom didn't want to cook too much. And still, they didn't choose me. Not really. Not when it mattered. Not when it came down to letting my children, the two little humans I'd built my entire life around, sit at the same table as their cousins. And that's when it clicked. They didn't get to have us halfway. They didn't get to love my kids when it was easy and abandon them when it wasn't. So I made a decision. Not loud. Not dramatic, but final. They could keep their peaceful Thanksgiving. I was going to build a new tradition. One where love didn't come with silence or shame. One where my kids would never again have to wonder why they weren't enough. Next morning, I didn't wake up angry. I woke up clear. No fireworks, no long texts, just silence. The kind of silence that comes after a final decision is made. Over breakfast, Liam watched me carefully as I loaded the dishwasher. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "I'm done." And I meant it. For years, I had been the one they leaned on. Whenever something broke, they called me. When their Wi-Fi glitched, I was the one who walked them through resetting it. When they needed rides, prescriptions, help with planning Daniel's surprise party, I was always there, and they had never once said thank you without comparing me to him. I didn't owe them rage. I owed them absence. So that week, I began my quiet retreat. When my mom texted me asking if I could help her find a better health insurance plan, I left it unread. When my dad called because his TV remote wasn't working again, I let it go to voicemail. I wasn't being cruel. I was finally being fair. The kind of fair they had never offered me. Then, 3 days before Thanksgiving, it hit me. The card. I was reviewing some year-end budget notes for work when I glanced at the financial app on my phone. There it was. A grocery store charge on the joint credit account. Only it wasn't joint. It was mine. Years ago, during Dad's surgery recovery, they were in a financial rough patch. I had added them as authorized users on my personal credit card. Just for a few months, I told myself. Just until they were back on their feet. But life got busy, and I forgot. They didn't. They kept using it. Not for emergencies, for everyday things, groceries, gas, coffee shop runs. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. They had been spending my money, silently, for years. While telling me my children weren't welcome at their table. While telling me Daniel's sons were just better behaved, I didn't get angry. Not outwardly. I just opened the card settings, scrolled to manage authorized users, and removed them both. One tap. Done. I sat back and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't revenge. This was reality setting in. For them. For the first time, they would have to function without me. And the best part? They had no idea yet. But they would. Thanksgiving was in 3 days. And when the card was swiped, the card they assumed would always work. Always carry them. They would realize the support line had been cut. Not because I hated them, but because I finally loved myself and my kids more than I needed their approval. Thanksgiving morning was quiet. Peaceful even. No frantic ironing of holiday clothes. No bundling the kids into the car. No nervous glances at the clock. worried we'd be late. Instead, Ava and Noah were in pajamas, faces smudged with flour, helping Liam pour pancake batter onto a sizzling skillet. The smell of maple syrup filled the kitchen. Laughter bounced off the walls. This was our Thanksgiving, and for once, I didn't feel like something was missing. Then my phone rang. "Mom," Liam glanced at me. "Want me to mute it?" I stared at the screen, heart steady. "No. Let's see what she wants." I picked up. "Hello?" "Oh, so now you answer," she snapped. "I suppose you're just sitting at home, feeling sorry for yourself while the rest of us are enjoying a lovely dinner." I blinked. So that's what this was. Not a peace offering, not concern, just an opening jab. "Mom, if you called to gloat, I don't have time." Her tone sharpened. "I need to ask you something. Did you cancel the credit card?" There it was. I turned slightly, away from the kitchen, lowering my voice. "What card are you talking about?" "Your father's grocery card," she said, as if I was the one being ridiculous. "We've been using it for essentials, groceries, gas, you know that." A pause. A long, still pause. "That wasn't your card, Mom." My voice didn't shake. "That was mine." Silence. Then a scoff. "Oh, don't be so dramatic, Nora. It's just a card. You make good money. We figured—" "You figured what?" My voice sharpened for the first time. "That you could keep using it without telling me? That I'd just keep paying for your life while you told my kids they weren't welcome at your table? Don't act like this is some betrayal," she said. "We raised you. The least you could do is support us now." I exhaled. Deep. Slow. Then delivered it plainly. "After everything you've said, about my kids, about me, you still expected money?" Another long pause. Then her voice turned cold. "You know what, Nora? This is exactly why we don't like having difficult conversations with you. You always overreact." There it was. The gaslight. The classic line. "You're the problem," but I didn't flinch. "You're right," I said, voice low, calm, steady. "I did cancel the card, and let me make something crystal clear." I took a breath. "You won't see another cent from me. Not now. Not ever." She gasped, sharp and theatrical. "Nora, don't be ridiculous." I cut her off. "And while we're at it, don't expect Christmas gifts. Or birthday gifts. Or surprise visits to fix the router. You made your choice when you excluded my children. Now I'm making mine." She was silent. Then, in a voice colder than I'd ever heard, "You'll regret this." And she hung up. I stood, there for a second, phone still in my hand, staring at the floor. Then I slowly turned back toward the kitchen. Liam looked up, spatula in hand. "Everything okay?" I smiled. Not a fake one, a clean one. "Yeah, just taking out the trash." And I meant it. Christmas Eve was perfect. For the first time in years, there was no rushing, no suitcase packing, no frantic searching for matching outfits to impress people who didn't really care. The tree glowed in the corner of the living room, decked with handmade ornaments and glittery fingerprints. Ava and Noah were in pajamas, dancing around to holiday songs, too excited to sleep. Liam had just handed me a cup of cocoa when the doorbell rang. We both paused. "You don't think—" he started. I was already walking toward the door. My gut said yes. I checked the peephole. Of course, Mom, Dad. And in Dad's hands, a large, beautifully wrapped box with a red bow. Like this was just another normal holiday. I sighed and opened the door. Mom's face lit up with a performative smile. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart." Dad extended the gift. "It's for the kids." I didn't move. "No thanks." Mom's smile faltered for a split second before returning, strained and tight. "Come on, Nora. Let's not ruin Christmas over one misunderstanding." "You didn't misunderstand me," I said calmly. "You excluded my children from Thanksgiving. You told me they weren't good enough to sit at your table." Her mouth opened, then closed. Dad shifted uncomfortably. "Let's just be a family again. That's all we want." I looked at them, at the gift in his hand. So neat. So meaningless. "You don't want a family," I said quietly. "You want access." Another beat of silence. Mom's tone snapped. Cold. "You're being selfish. Think about the children." I smiled then, not warm, but steady. "I am thinking about the children. That's why you're not in their lives anymore." Dad's jaw tightened. "You really want to do this?" Didn't raise my voice. I already did. And with that, I shut the door. Behind me, I heard nothing. No knocking, no apology. Just silence. I turned back toward my real family. Ava and Noah were sitting on the rug by the fireplace, sipping warm cider from mismatched mugs and arguing about which movie to watch next. Liam looked up as I joined them. "They gone?" I nodded. "Good," he said. That night, we had the best Christmas we'd ever had. We stayed up too late, watched 3 movies in a row, played board games. Ava fell, asleep with a candy cane in her hand. Noah curled up beside her on the couch. There was no pressure, no performance, no walking on eggshells. It was peace. And more than that, it was real. Because family isn't the people who expect loyalty in exchange for pain. Family is the people who don't make you prove your worth just to be loved. I thought that after Christmas Eve, after the door slam, the forced smile, the silent retreat, they'd finally get the message. But I forgot who I was dealing with. My parents didn't reflect. They retaliated. It was the week before New Year's when Liam brought in the mail and froze by the kitchen counter. "It's from your parents," he said, holding up an envelope with their last name typed in formal black ink. I sighed. "Let me guess. One last guilt trip before the year ends? You better read it." I took the envelope and slid my finger under the flap. Inside was something I hadn't expected. Not a letter, a legal document. My eyes scanned the text, and my breath caught. They were demanding reimbursement for raising me, food, clothes, school supplies, medical bills, piano lessons, summer camps from 15 years ago, all itemized in nauseating detail. At the bottom, $78,542 bolded, underlined, final. I stared at the number like it might vanish if I blinked hard enough. Liam took the paper from me, reading over it again. "They're billing you for your own childhood." I let out a dry, bitter laugh. They actually did it. They really think they're owed back pay for being parents. But I knew. This wasn't about money. It was about control. About dragging me back into their orbit. About reminding me that in their world, I was always indebted, and I was done being in debt to people who never once saw me as equal. The next day, I drove to their house. Not because I owed them a visit, but because they needed to see my face when I set fire to their fantasy. I knocked once. Mom answered the door, lips already pursed. "Oh, so now you show up." I held up the paper. "You seriously thought this would work?" She crossed her arms. "It's what's fair." Behind her, Dad stepped into view. "We sacrificed a lot for you, Nora, and now you're abandoning us." I let out a cold laugh. "No. You abandoned me the moment you decided my children didn't matter. The moment you used my credit card without asking. And now you want to charge me for being your daughter?" Mom's mouth twisted. "We gave you everything. And you expect repayment in the form of silence and obedience," I snapped. "But let me make something very clear." I held up the letter, then slowly ripped it in half. Right in front of them, Mom gasped. Dad's jaw clenched. You ungrateful, I cut in. I've given you money, time, forgiveness, and all you gave me back was exclusion, favoritism, and a bill for existing. I turned to walk away. You'll regret this, Mom spat. We'll involve lawyers if we have to. I turned back with a smile so calm it made her flinch. Go ahead. Try explaining to a judge why you're suing your daughter for crayons and chicken nuggets from 1999. They didn't reply, because they knew they'd already lost. I stepped off the porch and didn't look back. For the first time in my life, I wasn't their daughter. I was their reckoning. New Year's Eve was supposed to be quiet, a reset, a breath. We'd made snacks. Ava and Noah were running through the house in glittery paper hats, counting down even though it wasn't even dark yet. Liam popped champagne, just to watch the bubbles fizz. This was our celebration. No stress, no drama, just us. Then the knock came. Liam looked at me. I didn't move at first, but deep down I knew. I walked to the door slowly, already bracing myself, and when I opened, there they were. Mom, Dad, Daniel, and Daniel's wife Sophie, all standing in coordinated wool coats like they were staging an intervention. I folded my arms. It's New Year's Eve. You didn't think to call first? Mom forced a sweet smile. We just want to talk. No thanks, I said, starting to close the door. Dad stepped forward. Nora, enough. You've made your point. Now let's fix this before it goes too far. Too far? I raised an eyebrow. You mean like billing me for my childhood? They exchanged glances. Then Daniel spoke. We're not here to fight. We're here because Mom and Dad have spoken to a lawyer. And there it was. I felt the air in my chest tighten. A lawyer? I said slowly. Mom nodded. We're worried about the children, Nora. About your mental state. You've cut them off from their real family over a misunderstanding. That's not fair to them. I blinked. What are you trying to say? Daniel didn't flinch. They're looking into grandparents' rights. Silence. Then I laughed. Not a giggle. A full, sharp, stunned laugh. You're serious. Mom stepped forward, voice syrupy. We've done nothing wrong. We just want to see the kids. You want access, I corrected. Not love, not relationship. Control. Dad's voice deepened. You're making a mistake. Judges don't like when families are kept apart. I stared at them, dead still. Then reached into my coat pocket and pulled out my phone. You want to try legal? I said, my voice low. Let's play. I tapped the screen. I have every voicemail, every message, every receipt. You want to go to court? I'll bury you, with your own words. Sophie gasped. Nora, come on. No, I snapped. They treated my children like dirt. They used my money for years. And now they want a court to give them rights they didn't earn? Stepped out onto the porch, toe to toe with them. If you so much as file that petition, I will make sure your friends, your church, your co-workers, every single person who's ever seen you as respectable, sees what's on this phone. Daniel's expression cracked. Dad's face went red. Mom's voice turned sharp. You're being unreasonable. I smiled coldly. No, Mom. I'm finally being smart. Then I stepped back, gripped the door. Happy New Year. And I closed it. Hard. They didn't file. Of course they didn't. They knew they'd lose. In court, in public, in every circle they pretended to belong to. And for the first time in my life, they backed down. No texts, no voicemails, nothing. And that silence, That was the real beginning of peace. Months passed. Winter melted into spring, and with it, the last echoes of chaos faded from our lives. No more voicemails, no unexpected letters, no fake smiles at my doorstep, just quiet. And in that quiet, I healed. It didn't happen all at once. At first, I'd still flinch when the phone buzzed, still brace myself when the mail arrived, still wonder what line they'd try to cross next. But they didn't, because I'd made it clear. The bridge was gone, and I wasn't rebuilding it. One sunny afternoon, I sat on the porch with a glass of lemonade in hand. The yard was full of bubbles. Ava and Noah chasing them like they were the most important thing in the world. Their laughter was real, free, untouched. Liam sat beside me, watching them with that soft half-smile he always wore when he felt most at home. "It's been quiet," he said. I nodded. "Yeah, feels good." He looked at me. "Do you think they'll ever try again?" I took a slow sip of lemonade and watched as Noah tackled Ava into the grass, both of them squealing with joy. "It doesn't matter," I said finally, "because I've already won." Winning wasn't slamming the door. It wasn't canceling a card or tearing up a fake lawsuit or delivering the perfect line in a final showdown. It was this: peace, freedom. Knowing that my children would grow up in a home where they'd never have to earn love, where their value wasn't measured against someone else's silence. They didn't know the full story. Maybe they never would. But they knew I had chosen them, loudly, unapologetically, and forever. That's what mattered. Later that evening, as we cleaned up bubble wands and sidewalk chalk, Ava turned to me and asked, "Mom, why don't we go to Grandma's house anymore?" I paused, kneeling down to meet her eyes. "Because some people only want to be in your life if you follow their rules, and we don't do that anymore." She thought for a moment, then nodded. "Okay. Can we make cookies instead?" "Always," I said. She ran off to tell Noah, and I stood there for another second, breathing, grounded, full. They had wanted obedience, apologies, control. But what they lost was me. And I had finally learned. You don't owe anyone your peace, not even the people who gave you your name. Because family isn't about blood. It's about love, respect, and the quiet power of walking away. Have you ever had to choose peace over family? Let us know your story in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this one stayed with you.